Mr. Hill, what has television given you?
Well, nervous dyspepsia, indigestion, heartburn, all sorts of things like that, you know.
Well, I can see what you need an aspirin, but has it actually done you any good?
Yes, Aidan, it's done me an awful lot of good. In fact, I owe pretty well everything to television. It's given me great opportunities outside television. It's given me the chance to appear in a West End show. I've done my first film, and well, it's done one thing for me that I'm very grateful to television for, and that is that it's given me a lot of friends out in the north of England.
Benny Hill, born Alfred Hawthorne Hill, a name once synonymous with uproarious laughter and cheeky slapstick, was a global comedy icon who, for all his fame, never married and had no children. Despite starring in The Benny Hill Show, which captivated audiences in over 100 countries and drew more than 21 million UK viewers at its peak, Hill's personal life remained notably barren of familial roots. Proposals he made to at least 3 women were rejected. He never wed, and fatherhood eluded him entirely. Off-screen, he was known for his frugality. He rented instead of owning a home, never owned a car, and remained modest and unpretentious despite vast success. He lived more like an ordinary pensioner than an international star. His devotion to his work eclipsed almost everything else in his life. As his show sagged under shifting cultural norms and political correctness in the late 80s, his life took a darker turn. His career ended abruptly in 1989 when Thames Television chose not to renew his contract. The rise of a comedy legend. Benny Hill's story begins long before his television dominance. Born in 1924 in Southampton, England, he grew up during the Depression years in a working-class household. Life was difficult, money was scarce, and laughter was often the best medicine. From an early age, young Alfred displayed an uncanny ability to mimic voices and mannerisms, a gift that amused friends and hinted at his future career. After leaving school, Hill worked a series of odd jobs before being drafted into the Army during World War II. Even there, his comedic talents emerged as he entertained fellow soldiers with impersonations and gags. Following the war, he sought out opportunities in the entertainment industry, working on radio, stage, and eventually television. It was during this time he adopted the stage name Benny in homage to his comic hero Jack Benny. When The Benny Hill Show debuted in 1955, television was still in its formative years, and Hill quickly set himself apart. His unique blend of slapstick, pantomime, and sly innuendo was perfectly suited to the visual medium. His sketches were often silly, sometimes risque, and almost always physical. Unlike other comedians whose humor relied on dialogue, Hill leaned on visual gags that transcended language barriers, allowing him to build a massive international audience.
You say to someone, well, first of all, they spot your English. You're English. The first thing they say is, do you know Benny Hill? Not Mrs. Thatcher. Not the Queen.
Well, I'm prettier, aren't I?
By the 70s, his show was broadcast in dozens of countries, and he was one of Britain's biggest exports. He earned millions, commanded massive ratings, and was considered a national treasure. Yet while his career soared, his personal life remained curiously still. Love missed, marriage denied. Despite his worldwide popularity, Benny Hill was never known as a ladies' man off stage. Ironically, much of his comedy revolved around him playfully chasing women, usually to comic failure. This theme mirrored his real life more closely than most viewers realized. Over the years, he proposed to at least 3 women, but all turned him down. He remained unmarried with no family of his own. Some who knew him suggested that Benny's difficulty in love stemmed from his awkwardness and shyness. The bold, cheeky man seen on television was a mask. The real Benny was reserved, hesitant, and often unsure of himself. His proposals, while sincere, lacked the confidence and conviction that might have reassured a partner. Others pointed to his frugality, eccentric habits, and preference for solitude as obstacles to building a lasting relationship. Yet there was also an element of idealism in him. He seemed to hold on to an old-fashioned view of romance, perhaps waiting for a perfect love that never arrived. This hesitation, coupled with repeated rejection, may have deepened his retreat into isolation. Over time, the chance to marry and have children slipped quietly away. Not through a single decision, but through a lifetime of missed opportunities and guarded emotions. What made this all the more tragic was that Benny Hill did want connection. He was not a man who disdained love or children, he simply never managed to make them part of his reality. His devotion to comedy, his true companion, consumed him, leaving little room for the vulnerability that family life demands. Fame in decline. By the late 80s, comedy was changing. Audiences who once found Hill's slapstick and suggestive humor charming began to see it as dated. Feminist critiques labeled his sketches sexist, while younger comedians brought new styles of wit to the forefront. What had once seemed harmless fun was now being reassessed under a different cultural lens. In 1989, Thames Television abruptly canceled The Benny Hill Show. For Hill, this was not just the loss of a job, it was the loss of his identity. The show had been his life for more than 3 decades, the canvas on which he had painted his entire comedic career. Without it, he was left adrift, a man without purpose. The cancellation was handled coldly. There was no grand farewell, no celebratory finale. One day he was a star, the next out of work. For a man who had built his existence around making others laugh, the silence that followed was deafening. This rejection, by the very industry that once celebrated him, marked the beginning of his final decline. Health struggles and isolation. As his career disappeared, so too did his health. Years of overindulgence in food and lack of exercise led to obesity and heart problems. Doctors urged him to undergo bypass surgery and kidney dialysis, but he refused, choosing instead to let nature take its course. Friends speculated he was too afraid of hospitals, while others thought he simply didn't care enough to fight. With no wife or children to encourage him through treatment, Benny Hill faced his illness alone. His isolation grew deeper, and he spent much of his time in his modest flat, watching old shows and living a life that bore little resemblance to the vibrant performer the world remembered. Neighbors saw him carrying groceries, eating alone, and slowly fading away from public life. In April 1992, the inevitable happened. Hill died of a heart attack in his apartment. For 2 days, no one noticed his absence. When authorities finally entered his home, they found him alone. His life ended quietly and without ceremony. The man who had once commanded the attention of millions passed away almost unnoticed. The enigma of emotional distance. Why did Benny Hill never marry, never have children, never build the family life many take for granted? The answer lies in the emotional distance that defined him. Offstage, he wasn't the brash joker he portrayed, but a reserved, almost painfully shy man. He lacked confidence in personal relationships, particularly with women, and carried an insecurity that fame never erased. Even when he proposed marriage, he did so tentatively, as if bracing for rejection. He seemed to fear the vulnerability that love requires, preferring instead to lose himself in his work. To marry and have children would have demanded an openness he never managed to cultivate. Instead, he poured everything into his comedy, leaving himself with nothing to fall back on when his career ended. This emotional distance was not cruelty, it was simply who he was. Those who knew him often described him as kind, polite, and generous in spirit, but also as someone who kept a part of himself hidden. His comedy was his connection to the world. Without it, he was adrift. The lonely comedian.
So I came here, there was a nice little manager, Mr. Dean, 24 girls, and me. Whoopie-woe, have me creamy milky woe. The cry of the milkman. Yes, when I left Woolworths, I went on the milk round. I worked for Harry Hand's Dairies, which was situated somewhere in this area here. And this is the market street that I used to gallop down on my milk cart with all the empties in. And I was 16 years old, and of course I thought I was driving the stagecoach into Dodge City.
There is a special sadness in the image of Benny Hill alone in his flat, watching television reruns while the world moved on. Despite his fortune, he lived modestly, often more like a retired shopkeeper than an international star. He never owned a car, avoided extravagant purchases, and could be seen walking the streets of London unrecognized by many who passed him. But beneath this modest exterior lay a profound loneliness. With no children to carry his name and no partner to share his twilight years, he faced life's end largely alone. Neighbors recalled him as polite and gentle, but noted that he seemed perpetually isolated. His comedy had given joy to millions, but it had not given him the companionship he quietly longed for. In many ways, his life mirrored his sketches. A man always chasing after connection, always just a step away from catching it, and ultimately left standing alone as the laughter faded. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Benny Hill? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.